Chairperson Barney,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Llewellyn.
Yes.
Good, great.
Meeting's now called to order, and happy birthday. And
On the record.
Mr. Norwood, do you have your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, we would like to call Director Sonia Jenkins Gray to the stand.
All right. And of course, she's already been sworn, so
She's already been sworn.
still
and-
under oath.
And this, it looks like maybe our last witness.
All right. Thank you for telling us that.
Yes. Maybe I can get an extra 5 minutes in there.
All right. Whatever you get, the other side would get.
No, I think we're okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
May
Okay,
proceed.
Director Sonia. Can I call you Sonia?
Yes, please.
Okay. Sonia, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling better than I felt yesterday.
And what was your feelings yesterday?
Yesterday was a bit discouraging from a standpoint of testimony that was given, that decisions were made about me that were inferred rather than actual fact, and that evidence had not been presented that a particular issue actually happened. And that was part of the reason why many of the news stories were out there about me and my husband. And it was a bit disappointing and discouraging because I come in here still, even going through these proceedings every day, and work like nothing has happened. And for that type of thing to have occurred or happened was very discouraging and very disappointing.
And what about the notion that the mayor's office leaking to the media this scurrilous allegation, unproven allegation, about some affair between your husband and his ex-wife?
That was equally disappointing and discouraging to the point that I did not sleep really well last night because the mayor's office and those that I interact with up to this point on a daily basis are those that I had a great deal of trust in and believed that, you know, they were honorable, and that coming forth with this public hearing, that it would be discovered that there was evidence that supported the things that they were saying with regards to the allegations or charges that had been made relative to me and my husband. I openly admitted that I used the vehicle for personal use. And for that, I apologize. Had I known that I was doing that, I would not have done it. I would have still gone to Jefferson City to get my personal papers, but I would have used other modes of transportation in order to do that.
And maybe taking a day off.
Yes, and would have taken a day off. But I thought I was killing two birds with one stone, working and going up and coming right back.
Okay, let me direct your attention to Respondents Exhibit 41.
Is that in the,
It's in the thick binder, yes.
okay, you said 41?
Yes. Is it there? It may not, yeah, okay. And what is Respondents Exhibit 41?
It is an email that I sent to Director Coyle, and I CC'd Sarah Baker and Jared Boyd primarily because I had been in conversations with them before about this particular issue.
Okay, first of all, before we get into that, you heard the testimony from Mr. Boyd regarding his belief that you report to him. Is that accurate?
No, it is not.
Who do you report to?
The mayor, and I think definition of words is very important. The mayor appointed me, but the word appointed in that in that situation meant that she selected me for the position. And with that, then I would, of course, report to her. and only her.
When you say report, you mean, because the department is independent of the mayor, right?
Exactly.
So when you say report, meaning keep her abreast.
Abreast of what's going on in those types of things, yes.
Right, because she is the chief executive
Yes,
officer.
and under Article 18 specifically states that the authority for the mayor is only to make a selection, and also on the back end to make a determination whether to accept or reject a recommendation from the Civil Service Commission. Article 7, however, it does reference her as the CEO for the city, but it does state very clearly that that is only if there is no other article that supersedes 7, and Article 18 supersedes 7 and makes the Department of Personnel and the Director of Personnel completely independent.
Right, and we've had testimony and case law which talked about that Article 18 came about in 1941 and was added to the charter.
That's
your
correct.
understanding? Right, and the voters are the ones who made the call back in 1941 to make that department independent of politics.
Correct.
Okay, and based upon your review over the 2+ years in analyzing that charter, is it your understanding that that means free of political interference?
Yes, definitely, and that's why Article 18 was created, and the Director of Personnel and the Department of Personnel has been, up to this point, independent of any influence or any authority from the mayor.
And that might explain why in the history of the city of St. Louis, no one has had the moxie to even try to remove a director of personnel, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now before we get to 41, let's go to 43. It's in that same binder. Sorry, I'm a little bit discombobulated this morning, but bear with me.
43, yes.
Okay. For the record, what is Respondents Exhibit 43?
Respondents Exhibit 43 is an email.
43?
Yes, 43. An email dated December the 5th that was sent from me to Director Coyle, Jared Boyd, and Sarah Baker as a result of a request that was made for a mayoral appointee to serve as the acting Commissioner for Office of Violence Prevention.
Okay. And before we dive into that further, let me unpack a little bit more this notion about who you report to. Had you made efforts over 2.5 years to connect and meet with the mayor?
Yes,
Were those efforts rebuffed for
Yes.
whatever reason?
yes,
Okay, so is it fair to say that in making sure she was aware of the stuff, you did the next best thing, talk to her underlings, right?
yes,
Okay, in order, because you felt that they would provide her the information
Yes.
that you were reporting, all right?
yes.
And you know why she never met with you?
No.
All right. Now let's go back to Respondents Exhibit 43. Why did you send that email to Charles Coyle and copy Mr. Jared Boyd and Miss Sarah Baker? First of all, why did you send the email? I'm asking a two-part question since the clock is running. And why did you copy those two?
I sent the email based off of a request to have a mayoral appointee serve as the acting commissioner for the Office of Violence Prevention as a result of the resignation by the previous commissioner.
So what was your understanding as to what was going on in December when you sent this particular email?
That they wanted this particular mayoral appointee to go over and serve as the acting commissioner. I told them that the only way that that could happen or occur is that the mayoral appointee would have to resign as the mayoral appointee and reapply to the Office of Violence Prevention, potentially as a provisional appointee.
Why? Why would they have to resign being on the mayor's staff and then move over to what, a civil service position?
Yes, because the charter is very, very clear that the person must meet all fitness and merit tests in order to be considered a civil servant. And so he would have to meet the minimum qualifications of the position as well as have the relative experience to serve in that role. And so they sent me a copy of his resume. I reviewed it with my manager of talent acquisition, and it was determined that he did not meet the minimum qualifications for the position. And so therefore I instructed them that he could not be the acting commissioner or serve in that capacity, or really in any role that a civil service employee typically would perform.
Because it's required by the rules.
It's required by the rules.
And why did you copy Mr. Boyd and Ms. Baker?
Because they were involved in the initial conversations about this particular individual going over and serving in that capacity.
And were they the ones who informed you that that was
Yes.
their intent on behalf of the mayor?
Yes.
All right. Now, and that was in December 5th, 2024. It looks like 7:30 p.m. Why are you sending emails at 7:30 p.m.?
I gotta get the work done.
Okay. All right. And did you get any response from either Mr. Boyd or Ms. Baker in early December about this communication?
No.
Okay. And what was your understanding as to what the response should have been in response to your email?
We have received your email and we understand, and the mayoral appointee will not serve in that
Okay.
capacity.
All right. Did that happen?
No.
Did they reach out to you at all in response? All right. Now let's look at Exhibit 41. And here we are, January 27, 2025, in the throes of this process, right? We started the hearing on the 7th, 20 days later, you send this email, again, to Mr. Coyle, who is he?
The Director of Public Safety.
Director of Public Safety. You copy Sarah Baker, and you copy Jerry Boyd.
Yes.
Right, and what prompted you to send this email?
Because I had received several phone calls from employees at the Office of Violence Prevention, inquiring as to whether or not, the position had been filled. And I told them no, the position was still open. And then I was informed that a guy from the mayor's office was over there in an acting capacity. No, the guy from the mayor's office was over there saying that he had been hired as the commissioner for Office of Violence Prevention. And so I inquired more, and then I made a phone call before sending this email to Director Coyle, inquiring as to whether or not this particular individual was actually working over at Office of Violence Prevention. And he informed me that...
He who?
Director Coyle informed me that this particular mayoral appointee was assisting him with running the office with regards to paperwork, et cetera. And then I asked the question, well, is he physically located over at the Office of Violence Prevention? And he said, no, not to his knowledge.
Okay.
And so then I proceeded to inquire more, doing a thorough investigation into whether or not he's actually there in the office. And I received information that he's there in the office 2 to 3 days a week. I also talked to several other people that interfaces with the Office of Violence Prevention, and they shared with me that this person had been introduced as the acting commissioner of Office for Violence Prevention, and then that's when I sent this letter.
Okay, let me, before we go forward, move for the admission of Respondents Exhibit 41 and Respondents Exhibit 43.
And I have the usual objection that this is hearsay and it's not relevant.
41, just to be clear with the record, is an exhibit from, it's an email from the director to Charles Coyle.
Yeah, and it may already
That
be
you've
in
already
because we
referred,
did. Yeah.
that you've already referred to it here, I believe.
Yes.
It's already in. Are you asking for it to be admitted?
I'm just making sure it's admitted. I believe you're right
Well,
in response.
if it wasn't admitted before, you're objecting?
Yes.
Relevance is the objection, or,
Yes.
and hearsay, you said?
Yes. Okay.
All right. It's overruled.
Okay.
And so, at any rate, 41 then is admitted. So I think you want to ask another question
Yes,
about it?
Yes, I want to put it up on the screen. Okay, now, so why'd you send, so you had these discussions, and is that what prompted you to submit this one, this email?
Yes.
Okay. Were you, well, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. What was your reaction, having sent the email and clearly explained why this couldn't happen the way it was happening? When you found out that not only was this individual who we've doctored out, was not only over there, but was holding himself out as the new director of office prevention. What was your response to that?
My response,
Well, what did you feel about that? First?
yeah, I was going to say, it was not so much as a response or as a feeling that this was further evidence that the mayor's office was consistently trying to run personnel types of actions outside of the charter, outside of civil service rules, outside of administrative regulations, even after being given direction by the person that has the authority to guide and direct how these types of things should be done. That is just like, the hell with it, we're gonna do what we wanna do.
And that's even after this proceeding was initiated or started on January 7th, right?
Yes,
And even after we accused them of political interference, right?
yes,
They still interfere as late as now, right?
yes.
Because your understanding is that he's still camped out over there?
I do not know right now if he is still camped out over there or not.
Okay. But you heard an explanation proffered by Mr. Boyd and Ms. Baker. Does that change the violation, the clear violation?
Yes, it does not change the violation. The fact that he is not being paid out of the OVP budget is not the concern. The fact that he is still being paid out of the mayor's budget and working and doing work of civil servants is even more of a concern now that that has been made public.
So they're in violation at least as of January 27, 2025 in terms of political interference.
Yes,
In violation of charter rules that you made clear to them would be a violation.
yes.
Why on God's green earth would the chief of staff and the deputy chief of staff, and we heard their explanations, ignore express charter provisions to place one of the mayor's, and I won't use the pejorative term cronies, let's say close associates or staff members over there in a civil service chair? Do you know why they would do that?
I don't know why, when I provided options to them to be able to do something different, I suggested that they find someone within the public safety department that has criminal justice background, those types of things to fill in as the acting.
Okay. All right. And you spell it out, you cite the charter, the verse and chapter of the charter provisions, and yet they just say the heck with you, director of personnel, right?
Yes,
And you're in the throes of this fight for your reputation, and they continue with the same playbook in terms of political interference, it appears.
yes,
Okay. Now, let's talk about this delegation of authority issue.
yes.
Now, you heard testimony about that since you have testified last. What is your view of the world based on what we heard under oath from the chief of staff and the deputy chief of staff?
Let me object.
Well, that's a little broad. I mean, they
Okay.
both testified at length, so.
They did say a lot of stuff at length. Let's focus on the notion that that delegation of authority properly gave them the right to investigate you.
When the investigation was conducted, there was no legal delegation authority in place that gave them the right or the authority to investigate me.
Because no delegation of authority had been signed
No.
along the lines of what we're
Not,
talking.
there was not a delegation of authority that was assigned that covered the director of personnel. The
Okay.
delegation of authority that had been signed only covered employees that were actually working in the mayor's office.
And that was the delegation of authority that's dated the same date as the letter you received, August 23rd, 2024.
No, that was the initial delegation of authority that was signed upon
In 2022.
in 2021.
Okay, so it didn't cover you in that one.
No,
Okay,
it did not
so let's
cover
talk
me.
about the one they seem to be hanging their hat on, which is the one dated the same day as the letter of pre-termination.
Right. That delegation of authority, in my professional opinion, did not cover the Director of Personnel because the Director of Personnel is not a mayoral appointee. As defined in Section 1, mayoral
Section
appointment
1
of Article 18
of the charter.
of the Charter. A mayoral appointee is an accepted position. My position is not an accepted position. It is one that you must meet merit and fitness and go through a very lengthy process to be considered and hired into that position. The other thing with that delegation of authority is that it states that it covers only the purview of Article 18. Within Article 18, the mayor's authority is only to select the Director of Personnel and on the back end to accept or reject any decisions from the Civil Service Commission. So there was no authority within that delegation of authority for them to do anything at all.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about, you heard Ms. Baker's testimony regarding the directive she provided to you per your testimony that you should not place Mr. Frank on the reemployment list. Let's talk about that. You heard that testimony.
Yes.
What's your response to that?
The testimony was inaccurate. What happened before we began talking about the pre-termination or the termination that had been decided, Ms. Baker started the conversation out by saying, do you have a reemployment letter from Rick Frank? And I paused for a minute to think about it, and I said, yes, I do. And then she specifically said to me, I will tell you what list to place him on. And I was astounded. I was just like, you can't do that. But I did not respond. And then she said, we can find a program manager position to place him on or something along those lines, but I will tell you where to place him.
Is that political interference?
Yes, it is.
Is it blatant political interference?
Yes.
You also heard Mr. Boyd's testimony about asking you to resign.
Yes.
Did you hear that testimony?
Yes.
What happened as related to that episode?
In the conversation where they were making me aware that they were going to give me a pre-termination letter and that we needed to go to a public hearing. And when he went through and explained all of that, then he made the statement pretty much, however, you can resign if you would like to.
And what was your response to that?
My response was absolutely not.
Okay.
I said, I will fight this because I felt it was wrong.
Okay. Now, we've heard testimony about Anthony in fear and in a situation, you know, that you put him in. Let's talk, because you heard a little bit of that testimony from your husband, Reverend Gray, about how Anthony was welcomed into your family. Tell the commission about that.
Sure. Dr. Bird, or Anthony, is no stranger to my family. We don't go out or anything like that on a regular basis or anything like that. He has a relationship with my husband more so than me with that. But he has attended our church before. He attended my husband's 70th birthday party. Matter of fact, he helped me, not doing work hours or anything like that, you know, give me suggestions on, you know, for my husband's birthday party. And so it's been very friendly, it's been very collegial. Dr. Bird pretty much serves as my right arm with regards to his role. So he's privy to a lot of confidential information in the department. But, yeah.
But you would expose yourself, welcome him into your family.
Yes.
All right. And
You know, as a note, you know, his children draw pictures for me to put on my desks in my office.
Okay. Okay. So you have a work relationship and you have at least an acquaintance relationship
Yeah.
outside of the office.
Yes.
Okay. And he's your right-hand person.
Yes.
And you knew he checked out vehicles on a regular basis.
Yes.
And you didn't think anything of it when you sent that text and asked him to drive you
Yes.
and pointed out the fact that it wasn't all city business, and he said fine.
Yes.
And so you relied on him, rightly
Yes.
or wrongly, right?
Yes. Yes.
And as we've heard here, that's not uncommon in city government, particularly for somebody, a newbie like you,
Correct.
right? All right. In this whole back and forth to Jeff City business,
Yes.
were there any guns involved?
No, absolutely not.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Fertile imagination, perhaps?
I don't know.
Okay. No arguments, no
No.
cussing, no
No.
fussing,
None.
no threats,
No,
no nothing,
nothing.
no nothing.
No, nothing.
Okay. All right. Let me play a clip of a video of the Charter Commission meeting, which, just to set the background, this was after the mayor had gone to that same meeting advocating for mayoral control of civil service, right?
Yes.
All right, let's play that
When's the
clip.
date on this? Do we know the date of this?
January 24, 2024.
January 24, 2024.
And that was, what you're about to show occurred after, what again?
After the
Charter
the
Commission
Charter
meeting?
Commission was entertaining suggestions about changes to the charter. We've already had the evidence introduced, the
Right.
clip from the
I
mayor.
remember.
Earlier in that same month.
Yeah.
And this is the follow-up to that. And we're just gonna play a small snippet, and then I'm running short of time, so
All right,
I
go
don't
ahead.
object. I mean, it's not in evidence right now. Sounds like it's gonna be hearsay.
Well, okay.
it's her hearsay. She
What-
said
what's-
it.
What's the relevance here? This is a clip of the mayor,
This is a clip of the director
of the director.
contramanding or contradicting the position asserted earlier in the month before the commission in January, wherein she reinforced the need to maintain an independent, merit-based civil service system. So we have one half of the
Does the
equation.
city concede or stipulate that she did that?
I mean, I don't know why we gotta show a clip. Why don't you just ask her to say what she said?
Well, it's
Well-
my case in my minutes. I want to show a clip.
Well, I mean, she's here to testify.
What is your objection?
Well, I mean, it's an out-of-court statement, not under oath, offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted.
No, it's not.
She's sitting right there. She could just.
It's
It's not offered, overruled,
It's
it's not,
cu-
as
it's
I understand it, it's
cumulative.
not being offered, it is offered to prove that, well,
It's offered
I'll let Mr. Norwood
It's
state
relevant.
what I think is obvious.
to the mayor's intent. It's relevant to her intent, and it's relevant to the trigger for the retaliation.
This is,
I mean,
objections,
it's cumulative. He's got the witness on the stand, and he could ask the witness to say what she said. I mean, I don't understand.
the commissioners can either believe any witness or not believe any witness or any part of any witness's testimony. So,
Okay.
you're correct. A witness could be asked a question, but a clip is something that can be shown that is, demonstrates whatever fact the witness might have testified about. It is, I don't think technically it's under the category, but it's the best evidence of whether or not the witness took a particular position on a civic or political issue that is in dispute here, apparently. So, objections overruled, play the clip. I will subtract the time we took. He has, all right, go
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is meeting for the City Charter Commission. My name is Dr. Jasmine Nolan. Meeting for the City Charter Commission. My name is Dr. Jasmine Nolan and Commissioner Cross. We have, as well as Representative Tiara Thompson from the Comptroller's Office, Dr. Bird from the Personnel Department, and Sonia Jenkins Gray from the Personnel Department for a well-anticipated presentation pertaining to the Personnel Department. This is the only presentation we're going to have on today. Commissioners will ask questions immediately preceding the presentation from Mrs. Jenkins Gray. When you are ready.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, Madam Commissioner, Commissioners. I'm a bit under the weather and have lost my voice. So I'm going to do the introduction, and I'm going to ask Dr. Bird to read from the document. And I will be, just to save my voice so that I can answer any questions that you may have or provide clarity. With that being said, thank you for providing an opportunity for me and my staff to provide recommended changes to what we believe will support Section 2 of Article 18, which states, it is the purpose of this article, Article 18, to provide a modern and comprehensive system of personnel administration for the city, whereby economy and effectiveness in the personal services rendered to the city and fairness and equity to the employees and the taxpayers of the city alike may be promoted. To accomplish this, the provisions of this article shall be liberally construed. And this is a very important statement as we all move through the article to understand what its intent is. And its intent has always been to have a modern and up-to-date personnel department. I'm new to city government. Therefore, I've asked Dr. Bird. Kathleen, unfortunately, she's under the weather as well. She just notified me. And Dr. Bird serves as my administrative officer for the department. That they may be able to answer questions that I can't answer because I don't have the history with the city. Additionally, I'd like to share that my recommendations are based on my 15 months working for the city as its director of personnel and over 25 years of human resources experience working for companies such as Honeywell, Siemens, Fujifilm, General Dynamics, to name a few, pretty much across the world, Asia Pacific, Europe, North America, South America. I share this information with you only to establish my breadth and depth of HR experience as it relates to what my recommendations will be for the charter updates. Moving on, pursuant to the establishment of the Charter Commission, the Department of Personnel has reviewed. I included all of my deputies and we've been blind in the following updates. Some of the more simpler updates that were recommended is that we change and update all the pronouns. Because as you probably noticed throughout the charter, it references he or him. And we're recommending that we change all of those where appropriate to they or them. Change the Department of Personnel to the Department of Human Resources. And that Article 18 be published without previous litigation history, if it is deemed that that is appropriate. It becomes somewhat quite cumbersome to read through and understand when we have pretty much all of the litigation history included in there, and that might be and that may need to happen. I just don't know, but I just wanted to bring it up for conversation. So I'm going to start out with Section 3, Scope of Civil Service Rules. Dr. Bird, will you pick up there? Dr. Bird, are you there? Okay. Can you pick up with Section 3, number 1, and read from there, please?
Commissioner Bobo, present.
Okay. And in the interest of time, you and Dr. Bird was there, right?
Yes.
We were in his deposition testimony when he said he wasn't there.
Yes.
Do you know why he said he wasn't there when he was clearly there?
No.
Okay. All right. So to summarize in 1 minute, as it related to the independence of the civil service processes and the director, what was the position that you relayed?
I relayed that my position was and still is that the Department of Personnel needs to remain independent of the mayor, and that the Director of Personnel position should remain civil service and should not be a mayoral appointee, because if it is, then we run the risk of continued political interference and the breakdown of the civil service system.
And you held that belief in January when you expressed it to the Charter Commission,
Yes,
and you expressed that belief today.
yes,
Okay, and that was different than the expression of from the mayor, right?
yes.
And at some point, I don't know if you touched on this before, but just to keep it all together, did you try to get with the mayor and reconcile to make sure that you weren't stepping on any political toes?
Yes, when the mayor made her presentation, I was unaware that she was going to make that presentation, or that she was considering that the director of personnel should become a mayoral appointee. After her presentation, I contacted her office to have a meeting with her, because I had not yet presented, and I wanted the two of us to be on the same accord, and I wanted to share with her my concerns as to why I believed it needed to why it needed to remain independent.
Did that meeting ever happen?
Yes, the meeting did happen.
Okay.
But the meeting happened after I made my presentation.
Okay. And then I believe you already testified that afterwards things got really frosty
Yes,
and culminated in her parading around in a Christmas celebration, giving gifts to everyone but you.
yes.
All right. And lastly, I want to talk about what you heard from Bianca as related to what you purportedly conceded. Could you clarify for this record what you admitted to as it relates to her?
Yes. During the meeting with Bianca Lambert and John Unnerstall, when Bianca had shared with me the concerns that had been presented to her, allegedly from Anthony Byrd, I acknowledged to Bianca that it was true that I did take the city vehicle for personal use. I in no way ever admitted that any of the allegations concerning my reasons for being in Jefferson City, or even the situations that occurred after being there, were true. I denied them with her and said that the information that she was presenting to me was inaccurate.
Okay. All right. And just to close this loop, did you go to Jeff City to catch your husband cheating?
Absolutely not. I would not have been able to work all the way to Jefferson City if my motive was to go there to catch my husband cheating. It does not work that way.
Okay. No further questions?
All right, Cross.
Just we have a couple of seconds.
Sure.
A couple of minutes. Right. Okay. You were at Anthony Byrd's deposition, correct?
Yes, I was.
You were there for the whole deposition.
Yes,
So you heard his testimony.
yes,
You heard the description, the detailed description he gave of the events that occurred when you guys took the trip to Jefferson City.
yes.
Was he being truthful?
Can you be more specific? Was there a particular issue that you want me to say whether he was being truthful or not?
Sure. Was he being truthful when he said that when you all were sitting in the parking lot of the hotel, you called into the hotel conference room and asked you asked to speak with your husband's ex-wife?
No,
Okay. Was he being truthful when he said that you then went into the hotel?
yes,
Okay. Was he truthful when he said that when you came out, you were upset and emotional?
That was not true, no.
Okay. Was he truthful when he said that while you were out there, when you came back out of the hotel, that you all saw your husband running through the parking lot?
No, I testified that I did not see my husband running through the parking lot.
Was he truthful when he said that you asked him to drive you to the casino?
Yes,
Okay. Was he truthful when he said that you retrieved this recording out of the car and you played it for him?
no,
He wasn't truthful then when he said that he, on that recording, was your husband expressing his displeasure about the fact that the two of you had gone up there spying on him?
no,
Wasn't truthful about the fact that, you know, your husband called him a couple of offensive slurs?
and yes, and I want to respond to that very clearly. In the testimony, it used the word fag. My husband and I both have 4 children that are LGBTQ, and those are terms that we would not use, we do not use to describe anybody that chooses to have that lifestyle.
So this person who is no stranger to your family, very friendly, your right arm, you would welcome him into your family, just making this stuff up?
Some of it is not true, and it is it is embellished. Yes.
Okay. All right. You that reemployment letter that we were talking about
Yes.
from Rick Frank. How long did you have that letter?
I had it probably for about 7 or 8 months.
And you hadn't put him on a list yet?
Because when I received the letter, it was my first time, again, I'm learning the nuances of city government. When I received the letter, I reached out to the city councilor to ask her, what should I do with this? Because I did not understand how reemployment worked. I did not receive a response back from the city councilor, and I maintained the letter in my office.
So you held on to it for 7 or 8 months because you didn't know what to do with it.
I did not know what to do with it.
And nobody trained you on what to do with that letter.
That's correct.
Okay. Did you, I mean, so for that 7 or 8 months, did you ask anybody else? Did you ask a deputy director?
No, I asked the person that I needed to ask because it was a legal matter, and that was the city councilor.
I mean, even though the deputy director at the time, one of the deputy directors, Sylvia Donaldson, I mean, she'd been with the city for like 4 decades.
For me, it was a legal issue, and I sought guidance from the city council.
Okay, so deputy directors, who cares?
I sought direction from the city councilor, in which I take her opinion over those of the deputy.
And didn't get it for 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, no, I did not.
But then when you're asked about it by Sarah Baker and Jared Boyd, then what did you say?
I said, yes, I do have the letter.
Did you say, I didn't know what to do with it because I never got any direction?
I wasn't asked that question, but if I had been asked that question, I would have responded that way.
So when they asked you about it, you just said, I have the letter,
Yes.
nothing else.
No, I wasn't given a chance to say anything else because Sarah Baker interfered and pretty much said, I'm going to tell you what list to put Richard Frank on.
Okay, so that was Sarah Baker's fault.
No, I'm not blaming fault on anyone.
And you sat on it, the letter because you didn't hear from the city councilor's office, so it was their fault.
No, I'm not saying that it's anybody's fault, Attorney Harris. It's nobody's fault.
And you violated the vehicle use policy because Mr. Byrd told you it was okay, so that was his fault.
No, I'm not blaming anybody, Mr. Harrison. You are mischaracterizing my testimony.
And you went to the comptroller's office, thought you could reimburse them and it'd be okay because that's what Bianca told you. So that was her fault.
No, it's not. I must reiterate again. It is not anybody's fault, and you mischaracterizing that I am blaming people is not right. I take full responsibility for everything that I do and everything that I have ever done in the Department of Personnel.
And yeah, this is you taking full responsibility.
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. Okay. You said that this delegation of authority issue,
Yes.
that somehow Jared Boyd, Sarah Baker, they didn't have authority to investigate you.
That's correct.
Well, so who should investigate you?
Well, based off of this situation that had happened and based off of what the charter says, the Civil Service Commission should have done an independent investigation. That's where the investigative authority for the Director of Personnel under Article 18 falls. The other entity that had responsibility for investigating me would have been the Comptroller's Office. There are two policies that dictate that. One is an ordinance, the other one is the fraud and abuse policy, in which it states in there that no one other than the Comptroller has authority to investigate this type of issue.
So, and if they, let's say the Civil Service Commission investigated you, should they hear from Anthony Byrd, the one who went on the trip with you? Should they hear from him?
That
Let me
would be-
object, because it
that would
calls
be
for,
up to the-
it calls for speculation, because it never happened.
Well, overruled. The question's simple.
Should they hear
Actually,
from-
She answered it, but go ahead. I'm not sure her answer got on the record.
Oh, okay. Could you please repeat the
So
question?
you said that the Civil Service Commission should investigate you.
Yes. That's one
In,
entity.
in their investigation, should they hear from Anthony Byrd?
I think that would be up to the Civil Service Commission to determine who they would investigate.
Okay, let me put it like this. If they're gonna investigate you, they should talk to the witnesses, right?
Yes, they should.
Anthony Byrd a witness?
Yes.
Should they talk to Bianca Lambert?
Yes.
Should they talk to John Understall?
Yes.
Should they talk to you?
Yes.
That's interesting. That's just 4 people who have been talked to in this proceeding and who were talked to by the mayor's office.
Right, but I believe.
witnesses.
Right, but I believe that I would have received a more fair investigation if the Civil Service Commission had it investigated or one of the other entities that would have investigated, because in my 25+ years doing this work, that investigation was not thorough, nor was it independent.
But you've been arguing throughout these proceedings that the Civil Service Commission is biased against you and that they are conflicted. So how are they going to be fair to you?
Because at the beginning of this process, at the very, very beginning of this process, had the Civil Service Commission been provided with all of the information in a timely manner that they should have been provided, then I believe that they could have done an independent investigation and I would have had more faith in the process at that particular time,
In a timely manner,
in a timely manner.
like after you took the trip to Jefferson City.
Whatever you define as timely. I think that the Civil Service Commission would have to define what they believe is timely. My timely is based off of what the charter and the Civil Service rule dictate as being timely.
And what's the rule? What's the rule you may have mentioned one? The rule that says that an employee in the mayor's office can't assist in investigations.
Yes, it's in Article 18. I think it's Article 18, section 3 or 7, but it speaks to the fact that the person that performs the work of a civil service employee must meet all merit and fitness tests.
No, I guess I'm asking. You're saying that the folks in the mayor's office, they don't have the authority to investigate you. Where is that?
That's within that's within Article 18 with the powers of the mayor. Within Article 18, it specifically states what authority the mayor has. And in Article 18, it says that the mayor has authority only to select the director of personnel or on the back end to accept or reject a decision from the Civil Service Commission. She has no other authority within Article 18.
So you're suggesting then that if one of her, appointees engages in misconduct, she can't do anything.
I'm not a mayoral appointee. That's why I think we're getting confused. I am not a mayoral appointee.
Okay, she's your appointing authority. The mayor is, right?
She selected me for the position, but she does not have authority over the director of personnel.
I mean, you've testified previously that she's your appointing authority.
She's my appointing authority from the standpoint of she selected me for the position. That's why I believe the definition of words are very, very important, and they have been misused. The mayor being my appointing authority or being appointed means that she selected me for the position. But regardless, if you read Article 18 is specific, Attorney Harris, in the fact that the only authority that the mayor has within Article 18 is to select the director of personnel or on the back end to accept or reject.
Article 18 does not say, the mayor cannot look into conduct or misconduct of folks that she
It
hires.
says that.
She hired you.
But it says that she does not have the authority that has been executed through this process. Article 7 of the charter specifically states that the mayor only has authority over anything or anybody that is not referenced in a different article within that charter. Article 18 is that different article.
Let me ask you about this duty to report issue. You've been here listening to testimony, and you recall Mr. Norwood questioning Jared Boyd and others about the duty to report misconduct.
Yes.
Right? Remember, he said, he was talking to Anthony Byrd. He's talking about Anthony Byrd possibly falsifying the vehicle log,
Yes.
and he said, "Oh, you guys should have reported that.
Okay.
They should have reported it to you or something," right? Talked about Anthony Byrd possibly driving hundreds of miles after July the 3rd,
Yes.
and he said they should have reported that.
Okay.
Isn't that what they said?
Yes.
I mean, that's what Mr. Norwood said, that they should have reported that.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've testified that you testified that Anthony Byrd illegally recorded a conversation. Remember?
No, I don't recall, but please remind me.
Okay, so remember when you testified, however many weeks ago, we talked about that day on August 15th when you and Anthony Byrd were having a conversation and you secretly recorded him. Remember
Yes.
that?
Yes, I do.
And in that conversation, and we played a clip of it, you told him, you guys were talking about an instance where he recorded a conversation between two other people.
Yes.
And you told him that was illegal.
Yes.
Did you report him?
I'm his appointed authority, so I knew about it, so I had a conversation with him about it.
Okay, did you do anything about it?
I did.
Did you? What'd you do?
I'm not going to disclose that in this hearing.
Okay. And you said in that recorded conversation though that I'm protecting you.
No, I did not use those words that I'm protecting you. I don't recall saying that.
Well, let's play it.
Okay.
I don't feel like you 100% trust me, but I do feel like you trust me to a degree, and I wanted you to know, like, hey, this is something that's going on, and it wasn't trying to score brownie points, but it was like,
I didn't take
I just
that.
needed you to know what you're walking into.
I did not take it that way. And my documentation, my wanting you to document it was to protect you. Because the recording that you did was an illegal recording. And so if I did not have you document that you heard it, I couldn't necessarily say, well, you recorded everything and I'll listen to the recording. So from my perspective, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of what you wrote. This is what you heard, this is what you wrote, but not to have you document and take it and say, okay, what Anthony said. Nobody knows that you were, matter of fact, I think I even told a lie, I said that you weren't even in the building or something like that. So people just know, the people that I talked to, which was incompetent, just know that I got information. It was documented. They don't know where I got it from. It's not my plan to tell them where I got it from. Because they were able to confirm what it said. You see what I'm saying?
I understand.
So I don't need what you told me now. Because I've got them confirming that it was said.
So you told him that you were going to protect him,
Yes.
and you even lied to people to protect him.
No, that's not true.
Oh, you were lying
No,
in that
no,
recording.
no. But I don't want you to mischaracterize why I said that I told a little white lie.
You didn't say a little white lie.
Well, a little white lie, that I had lied. It was not to protect Anthony as much as it was to facilitate
Facilitate what?
Oh, to facilitate the fact that this had actually occurred.
I don't know what that means. It sounds to me like you're telling him you illegally recorded someone, that was illegal, but I'm gonna protect you, and I even lied about it.
I can see where you would surmise that, but that's not actually what happened.
You could see where I
Yeah.
would surmise that, okay.
Yes.
At the same time, you and your lawyer are railing against, other folks for not reporting misconduct. Right? And that conversation that was recorded was on August the 15th, right?
Yes.
Same day that you met with Bianca and John Understall?
Yes, it was.
All right, it was after that meeting with them, wasn't
Yes, it was.
Okay. After you had shushed them while they were in that meeting, while you call Anthony Byrd, put him on speakerphone,
Yes.
right? So that
Yes,
they
I
could
did.
hear it.
Yes.
Okay. And then you called Byrd down to the office,
I think so, yes.
where you secretly record him.
Yes.
And during that secretly recorded trip, you do tell him, hey, I'm worried about the Jefferson City trip.
Repeat the question again.
During that secretly recorded conversation, don't you also tell him, hey, I'm worried about this Jefferson City trip?
No, I did not say I'm worried about this Jefferson City trip.
Weren't you worried though? Because they just confronted you with it.
No,
Bianca just confronted
I'm
you.
answering the question that you asked me.
Okay.
And that was, did I say to him, I'm worried about this Jefferson City trip? And I'm saying, no, I did not say that.
What'd you say about the Jefferson City trip?
You got the recording. What did I
Okay,
say?
let's play it.
Yes.
But, in doing everything, as I'm reflecting and going back on decisions I made, things that I've done, I always ask, is what I'm doing okay? And that's just like when we took the car to Jefferson City. And I'm like, is this okay? Am I gonna get in trouble for this?
Nobody ever knew. Nobody ever knows to this day.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Feel that I've done something wrong.
I understand.
I've done, and I like to correct what I've done. Because what's bothering me right now is going to Jefferson City in the car. And if I need to write a letter and tell people that I did that,
Nobody knows.
I'm okay
Not
with it.
even Kim, no.
Because Anthony, I don't like drama. I don't like it. If I've done something wrong, I'd rather go ahead and deal with my punishment or whatever it is, and get it over with, whatever the punishment is, and be done with it. I don't like carrying stuff, clouds over my head. I'm not knowing that I
But I
did it.
want us to be clear about that. Nobody knows.
But did I do anything wrong?
No. No.
That's what I'm asking. Did I do anything wrong?
No.
Because I don't like feeling that I've done.
And they actually can't track it or trace it back to you. It was checked out under my name, not yours.
Right. But if I did something, even so, but if I didn't do anything wrong, I shouldn't worry about whether somebody can track us or not.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's what I'm saying to you. That is not the matter.
So that's 2 times in that conversation you bring up this whole trip to Jefferson City.
Yes.
It concerned you, didn't it?
Based off of the conversation that I had with Bianca Lambert, and me thinking that I had not done anything wrong, I did not understand why all of this was happening. So yes, from that point of view, yes, I was very concerned.
And you were hoping to get him on the record saying, you didn't do anything wrong, weren't you?
I wanted the truth on the record. And at that particular time, I didn't know where the truth was actually coming from because what had been presented to me was not the truth.
Before you ask another question, just, can you clarify what exhibit number was the recording that you just played? Does it have an exhibit number?
Yeah, it doesn't have an exhibit number, but we can call it 31.
All right, now, it's been played. Has it previously been admitted?
There was a clip that...
There was a clip played previously,
The first clip was
I don't
previously
recall
I
that it was
think-
actually admitted into evidence, was it?
It was. I think what we can
Was
do is...
admitted then?
Yeah.
All right,
it
but
was
now
admitted.
you're asking that the rest of the clip be admitted,
Yes,
and it's all Exhibit 31.
right, correct.
Give a copy of it at the close of evidence.
Does the, all right, I don't know, do we know the date that this conversation that was recorded took place? I know we've had the testimony from the director that it's her and Bird on the recording,
She testified August 15th,
August 15th.
2024.
All right, Mr. Norwood, do you have any objection to the admission of the Exhibit 31?
No objection.
No objection, all right, Exhibit 31 is admitted. All right, just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
And then
All
I
right.
just have one. And whose recording is this? Is this a secret recording
Yes.
of whom?
So this is the director's secretly recording her conversation with Anthony
Thank you.
Bird. And on that recording, you heard, and in the conversation, you were there, Anthony Bird say a couple times, no one will ever know about it. They can't trace it back to you, right?
Yes.
Did that worry you that he said that?
That's why I kept emphasizing to him, are you sure I didn't do anything wrong? That's why when he mentioned that it couldn't be tracked, I'm like, why should I be worried about it being tracked if I didn't do anything wrong?
But he's right, exactly. So, I mean, that's precisely the point. He's saying you didn't do anything wrong, but don't worry about it. They can't trace it. So, like, what do you do with that?
Exactly what I did, probe and say, if I didn't do anything wrong, why do I need to be worried about this? Because the information that had been provided to me was that using the city vehicle was okay. I wasn't violating any policies. And so therefore, I'm like, what did I do wrong?
So you had a couple different people telling you different things, though.
Not at that particular time.
Well, Bianca Lambert came in there to report this
Oh,
incident.
no, that's the only time that somebody had said something that I had potentially done something wrong.
I mean, you got Bianca and you got Anthony Bird saying, it's not wrong, but don't worry about it. And you're like, all right, I'm cool.
But I wasn't cool because that's why the next day I did my own investigation to find out whether or not I did something wrong by contacting the comptroller's office, finding a copy of the vehicle use policy. And then when I found out that I actually did do something wrong, then that's when I planned to go to the mayor's office to let them know that I had done something wrong. In the video, in the audio, you heard me say, I will let somebody know if I've done something wrong. That has been my practice, Attorney Harris, ever since I've been here. When I do things wrong, I make people aware.
But you know you're recording yourself, so of course you're trying to put yourself in the best light.
That's not the position that I was taking.
Okay. I mean, okay.
Time check.
We are right at 11:51 with a deadline, having given 2 additional minutes for our discussion, taking him to 12:03.
So 8 more minutes.
Thank you.
No, my math is wrong, 9 more minutes.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. We want to play another clip of that conversation.
Right, yes. But you, young man, you're either gonna be on my side or you're gonna be on the other side. This is not something that you can play the fence on.
I am definitely on your side.
right? I'm not gonna ever ask you to do anything illegal. If I do, then you need, there's no abuse of power, nothing. I depend on my team to tell me if I'm getting ready to do something wrong, or if I am doing something wrong. And if y'all don't tell me that, I think that what I'm doing is okay.
I understand.
You know what I mean? Because if I can't trust y'all, and if I can't trust you, who's the closest person to me, both professionally and personally, and sometimes people can't manage that kind of dynamic, manage that kind of relationship. But I'll let you into my family circle. My daughter accepted you into our family circle. My husband accepted you into our family circle, which is completely separate from my work.
I agree.
And I don't let that influence my decisions with you over work.
I agree, because I think I get in trouble more than anybody else around here, so.
But that's only to make you better.
I understand.
I'm not
I
trying to do
understand.
anything punitive. I haven't done anything punitive to anybody here, you know, that's good to say. But Anthony, I'm looking you straight. If I can't trust you, of all people, I will quit tomorrow and won't think twice about it.
I will not. The reason why I came to you on Friday is because I needed you to understand.
Did you need a second?
No.
Okay. I didn't know you were texting. I didn't know if you were, are you texting someone?
Yes, I was.
Work related?
Yes.
Okay. Who you texting?
I don't think that's any of your business.
It's not, it's really not.
I mean, you understand, you're under oath.
Amen.
Yes.
How is her texting someone, you know, modern technology, but
Okay.
that's not relevant?
That's fine I guess I'm probably the only one in here who's curious about that, but that's
You
okay.
apparently permitted her to keep doing it without interjecting that a witness
You
on
wanna-
the witness stand should
Are you
not. Well,
objecting?
now,
Do you wanna question
now
her?
I have made it clear to her that she should not be texting while she's on the witness stand. All right?
Okay. I mean, do you want to question her?
That's the first time, Mr. Harris, that I have ever had anybody on the witness stand texting. Pardon me?
The audience.
Yes, Mr. Llewellyn has pointed out, people in the audience, folks, this is not a high school basketball game. There's no cheering sections. Audience is permitted to be here. Obviously, it's interest to the public. You have a right to be present, but you do not have a right to participate or be out of order. So please, and
I'm turning my phone off.
please do that, you know. I sometimes forget to turn mine off when I'm up here, and then I have to do it. But, so we all make that kind of error. Now, Mr. Harris, if you're asking a question of what was she texting about, Mr. Norwood
We move on.
objected, and I sustained his objection.
We'll move on. See, you mentioned in that conversation with Anthony Byrd this idea of trust. You got to be able to trust him, right?
Yes,
And he should be able to trust you.
yes.
Can he trust you knowing that you secretly recorded him?
In that isolated situation where I believe that, based off of the circumstances that had just been presented to me, my trust for him, based off of what Bianca Lambert had shared with me, there was a major gap there. And I believe that I needed to have Dr. Byrd on recording stating that there was no issue with the both of us taking that car, and that's what he confirmed.
So he ought to be able to trust you now.
I believe that there has been some trust issues on both sides that have been violated.
Okay. You, who is Stephanie Green?
Stephanie Green is my executive assistant.
Did you ever send a text to her about what happened on July the 3rd?
I don't recall.
I'll try to refresh your recollection. Did you send a text to her saying, "I caught my husband"?
I don't recall.
So it's possible you did.
I don't recall, honestly do not recall sending her a text message.
Okay, I'll take that to mean it's possible that you did.
Possible
That you did.
that she sent a text message?
Yes.
All right.
It's
Yeah, what's your
speculation.
objection?
It's possible. A lot of things are possible. So it's speculation.
And then let me play
As I
one more.
understand, well, just to
Oh.
clarify the objection, I believe, I don't think that states a legal basis other, well, it's speculation.
Is a legal basis.
Well,
at
in
least
effect,
law
it's
school
asking,
it
is
was.
something possible, and the answer is possible. Doesn't really speculate, it doesn't tell us anything.
Right. And so it's speculation. That's what the definition of speculation is. At least in law school. It's been a while.
The only answer I got, just, Mr. Harris, if you want to clarify your question and ask it again, but I got that you asked her, and her answer was, it's possible that she sent a text message. Now, that's trying to put together, because the two of you were interrupting each other with each of you not completing sentences, but that is what I understood the question and the answer to be. Interjected in there was something about catching her husband, which I do not believe she answered one way or the other. So if you wish to ask that, go ahead, but I'm just telling you what I have in my notes, what I think the witness has said so far.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on. I want to play another clip from the exhibit.
Change that you
And where I made my mistake, because it's just who I am, I'm a people person, and I'm engaged with people. I should have never allowed my personal life to even be known in this building.
Is that the mistake, that, you allowed your personal life to be known in this building?
My personal life is known in this building primarily because my husband from time to time would visit the office, not on a regular basis, but sometimes he would. And when he would come to visit, because of his background and who he is, the rumors and things would fly, and people would say things and different things like that. And I should have just stay away from here, don't come to this building, leave it alone.
Okay. And you have started a GoFundMe for this matter, is that
Let me
right?
object. How is that relevant to anything?
All right, but let's hear what the question is, Mr. Harris. I assume you think you can make this relevant?
Yeah.
So why don't you ask your question, and Mr. Norwood obviously wants to object, but let's hear the entire question.
So the first question was, you've started a GoFundMe to help fund this, your expenses for this matter.
All right, and,
Yes, objection is irrelevant.
all right, and so what's the relevance? What's the next question?
Well, the next-
Or is that it?
I mean, it has to do with, this witness's, this director's, interaction or relationship with employees as related to this matter is all part of her manipulation of employees to help, her case, to help this matter.
What's the question that's going to somehow
The question
tie
after
that
that,
in?
the question after that is going to be, have you asked employees in the Department of Personnel to contribute to your GoFundMe?
All right. I believe that's your, can you point to what rule would that violate? What charter provision? What law? What ordinance? Is that a violation of something?
I mean, it's,
Well, if it is a violation, I don't see it being charged.
Well, I know it's not charged, but is it a violation of something?
it's relevant to, again, I mean, we just heard her testimony about this secretly recorded conversation with Mr. Byrd. And it's our position that part of that was her trying to manipulate him. It shows consciousness of wrongdoing. And So I'm asking about whether or not she's also reaching out to other employees within the department to get them on her side as
Because
consciousness.
asking people to contribute to a legal defense fund shows consciousness of guilt?
I believe it does, in that, and it also, I mean, I see the look on your face that you don't agree with that.
Well, because I think you'd struggle to find a site in any legal authority that would suggest that that's correct. Now, I could be wrong, and I don't know something, but
I mean,
we've got sites that go back about
that's fine,
500
Ron.
years in American and into
That's
English
fine.
civil law.
It's fine. You can give Mr. Norwood all the leeway you want, and not afford that same leeway to me. That's fine.
Mr. Harris.
I'll move on.
Mr. Harris, I think you're old enough to know how improper what you just said was. Maybe you're not. You said you'd move on, move on.
I'm moving on, Judge. I'm going to move on. And again, I think it's pretty clear that despite, one litigant yelling at you, arguing back and forth with you repeatedly.
Oh, is this more? You're moving on with more
Yes.
of the, okay.
Yes, I am.
Well, Mr. Harris, all right. We're fine. Go right ahead and launch, whatever broadsides you wish to launch. Now you don't have any. Okay, I gave you the opportunity. I'm sitting here ready to hear you. All of a sudden, nothing. Okay, redirect, I think where we're at is redirect.
You're still talking.
No, you said you had no further questions and you sat down.
Yeah.
Now it's redirect.
But you were still commenting on me sitting here.
I don't want to be caught in between that broadside, but if I
Well,
may,
maybe you ought to ask him if he's done.
are you done broadsiding? I think that's a yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay. I want to try to, how much do I have, 20 minutes?
Perhaps I should point out, because this is an unprecedented hearing, never been done before in the 70 years the history's had these provisions in Article 18, the civil service provisions of the city charter. And so it is an educational experience. One thing that people might not understand, even though I've been addressed as a judge and I'm a former circuit judge, is that I'm unaware of any provision that gives me the authority to hold anybody in contempt. Now, back when I was a judge, attorneys would not talk to me the way, in effect, both attorneys during this proceeding have at one point or another, Mr. Harris wanted to point out Mr. Norwood who's haranguing me, and then Mr. Harris had his own. So I'm not sure whether he was saying Mr. Norwood was wrong when he decided to do it himself or what. But at any rate, folks, in a real courtroom, one of them might have, been taken by the sheriff back to a cell to calm down for a little while. But here, I don't have that power, so I have to, by my facial expressions or my gestures or the tone of my voice, if what I say in rulings doesn't make clear, then I have to try to do it some other way. And as you can see, Mr. Harris eventually did sit down, so it worked. Now, redirect.
But I also just want to be clear and to underscore, I think that would apply for both attorneys, for
Right.
you as well, Mr.
Well,
Norwood,
and
you, Mr. Harris.
and
I just want to be clear
Well,
of that,
well,
as I'm
well,
hearing you chuckling at the comment
I am
because
chuckling
it's on
because
Mr. Harris at this
I
time.
am chuckling.
There was a moment in which,
and
and
I'm chuckling.
moments.
But the difference is, Vice Chair, that the next hearing, I apologize to the commission and to the judge, okay, for my XSG, if I recall.
I just wanted to be
No,
clear
no,
myself
I mean, I
as
wanna
a
be clear,
commissioner
too.
that
I wanna be clear,
is
too. I
a
wanna be
comment
clear,
that
too.
the hearing officer is making in representation of us as a commission, and I needed to underscore that point for this audience and for the record with you as well.
And I understand, and I like
Please
to
move
underscore.
forward.
I know. Well, no, I'm broadsided, and now I feel the need
No,
to
I
respond.
just needed to do an equity check right there.
And I need to respond, if I may, Vice Chair.
I would prefer we move on as we're at the noon hour.
Okay, and since we're at the noon hour, and since my flow is flowing today, I will yield.
Thank you.
To the commissioner. Thank you. Vice Chair, I'm sorry. Now let's talk about this casino business. Is there a restaurant, a favorite restaurant at the casino?
Yes.
What's the name of that restaurant?
Charlie Guido's.
Okay, and in fact, we've had dinner together at Charlie Gito's, right? It just happens to be at the casino, right?
Yes.
All right. Now, he makes a lot about this recording,
Yes.
which you knew was recorded,
Yes.
right? Anthony didn't know it was recorded.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Anthony didn't know.
Correct.
And he made some statements about the fact that he checked out the vehicle, which is true. That's no secret about that, right?
Correct.
And you didn't blame him for checking out the vehicle. You asked him to check out the vehicle, right?
Yes.
And you explained or tried to explain via text that it wasn't all business, which was true, right?
Correct.
And ultimately, he drove you to Jeff City and back, right?
Yes.
And did you expect anything other than going to retrieve your papers and coming back?
No.
That was what you expected to do.
Yes.
And we had testimony from your husband that you all had a pleasant morning, right?
Yes.
You gave him the keys to your car, right?
Yes.
He drove to Jeff City, right?
Yes.
You realized you had the papers and you went to retrieve the papers.
Yes.
And you did retrieve those papers.
Yes.
Okay. So, you've taken full responsibility for violation of a policy that you weren't aware of, right?
Yes.
Right? You when Mr. Boyd and Ms. Baker brought you in, you said it, right?
Yes.
When Bianca Lambert brought it up, you acknowledged that you all took the trip, but at the time you didn't know it was a violation, right?
Correct.
Didn't have a copy of the policy.
No.
Didn't know about the fact that you could be getting reimbursed for all of those personal trips or the business trips you were making in your personal vehicle around the city, right?
Correct.
You didn't know about that, and therefore you never submitted legitimate reimbursements for those trips.
No, I did not.
And you roughly calculated how much the city would owe you if you had.
Yes.
All right. Now, we talked about Article 18 and independence. Let me hand you what has been marked as Respondents Exhibit 9, which for the record are the exhibits submitted in support of the verified petition for the writ of prohibition that was filed somewhere, I think it's upstairs. Let me hand you, if I could, and I don't know if you'll have it, but it's a copy, and we have extra copies. Mr. Gillen has a lot of trees that have sacrificed for this hearing. Let me hand you a copy of Respondents Exhibit 9, and I'm going to direct your attention to page A8. And what is that page, A8? Well, let me expedite. Let me
It is
say,
Section 7 of Article 18.
and it says commission powers and duties, right?
Yes.
It shall says the commission has the power and duty, and C says investigations, right?
Yes.
All right. And you recall early on in October when we were briefing this issue about why this thing should be under the whistleblower ordinance, and you testified about that this morning, right?
Yes.
And in those same filings, we pointed out to the commission that if anybody, I mean, it's whistleblower, but alternatively, if anybody's got to do it, it should be the commission and not the mayor. You recall
Yes.
those arguments? Okay. So this is not something you've just created today.
No.
And we let the commission know back in October our view of the world,
Yes.
right? Okay. Now, did you lie to anyone about Anthony and the recording that you talked about?
No.
All right. And in fact, I believe, and this is all in the record, but you talked to Sheena about that, right?
Yes.
And she gave you some instructions
Yes.
regarding what her assessment was, right?
Yes.
All right. And so you haven't lied to anybody
No.
about that episode as related to Anthony and his recording of a conversation that he wasn't party to.
Correct. Yes.
And you state in the recording, you say, if I can't trust y'all. Is trust important in this operation?
In this operation and in the role that Anthony Byrd has, trust is very, very important.
Where in fact, 4,500 employees, you all have access. That department has access to all of that confidential information, health information, social security information, all sorts of mental health information. All of that is contained in that department, right?
Yes.
And so isn't it important to be able to trust people with access to that kind of information involving 4,500 employees, to know you can trust them to safeguard those secrets?
Yes.
And you were texting, guilty as charged, right?
Yes.
Handling city business while they're regurgitating a recording that you're familiar with, right?
Yes.
Because that's how you roll. You trying to juggle and kill two birds with one stone in this proceeding.
Yes.
Okay, your phone is blowing up because things are happening.
That's correct.
And throughout this entire process, the hearings, the castigation, the skirl, you have managed to maintain this operation of the Department of Personnel.
Yes.
How the heck can you do it?
Because when I walk through that door of the Carnahan building, my focus is on getting the work done for the Department of Personnel and for the city and for these employees here. The outpour from employees here in the city of support, and they're not wanting me to go away,
Let me object relevance.
has been wonderful.
Well, hold on
Well-
a second.
All right, it's a narrative answer. Ask another question.
I mean, but he objected in the middle. Right,
Right, exactly,
Can you wrap that up in like a couple sentences?
Well, what's the question that you're asking her to wrap up? That's
The
what I'm
question was, despite the slings and arrows being thrown at her, despite the attempt by the mayor, for the first time in history, to remove a director of personnel, despite her being here in these hearings to protect her reputation, her dignity, this department, these personnel, she is still handling city business, and I, in my humble view of the world, believe that that's something this commission should know about the integrity and character of this individual that you all have to decide. That's the only purpose of the question, to know what we're discarding if in fact that's where we end up.
Mr. Norwood, my question to you was, what was your question of the witness?
The question of the
You just went on and on.
No, the question to the witness.
You did not state a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. She is high again today. I'm sorry, Your Honor. The question was, you have been conducting City of St. Louis personnel business despite these charges, despite having to sit in day after day in these hearings, right?
Objection relevance.
All right, sustained as to relevance.
It's not relevant to the commission regarding the work ethic of an individual who has been charged with malfeasance. Is that what I am to
You're offering
understand?
it to show her work ethic?
Yes.
All right, overruled.
Okay. Right? Why?
Because when I took my oath of office, I carry that through every single day, and I will up until such time that I am no longer here. And it calls for me to walk in here every day and perform like I performed before this ever occurred, and to continue to do the work and to treat people as I have always treated them, regardless of any circumstances, regardless of anything that has occurred as a result of these hearings.
I have no further questions.
Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
No recross, so Ms. Jenkins-Gray, you can take your seat.
Well, before she does that, just so the record's clear, I'd like to move for the admission of the one video that we played.
Well, you can do that. She can be taking her seat.
Yes.
Right? You don't need her
Yes.
sitting there. Okay, go ahead. So you're moving to introduce a video that you played, which was the exhibit that you were playing back
Yes, it's a
in the
respondent's
beginning of her
exhibit.
testimony, Exhibit 31?
No, this is
No?
Respondent's Exhibit 14 on the exhibit list in the binder.
Respondent's Exhibit number
14. in the
14.
Exhibit list of the binder.
Okay. Any objection?
Reggie,
What is that?
was it 14? Yes.
Oh, no objection.
All right. Exhibit 14, Respondent's Exhibit 14 is admitted.
Yes, and with that, the director rests.
All right. Any rebuttal?
Your Honor, if it's okay, can we take the lunch break?
Before you decide?
Yes.
All right, so it is now 20 after 12. We'll go till 1:30, all right? All right, 1:30. We're back on the record after the lunch recess. Before the lunch recess, the director's attorney had announced that she was resting her case.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and attorney for the appointing authority.
No rebuttal at this time.
No rebuttal, so that would conclude all of the evidence to be presented in the matter. The staff has been keeping track of which exhibits were admitted, and so with that, then we should be ready to proceed to closing arguments on behalf of first the appointing authority and then the director. And the appointing authority, do you wish to split your time, or do you wish to use all of it in the first part?
Point of order, how much time?
I believe it was 30 minutes?
Correct.
30 minutes each side. Do you wish to split your time, or
Yes, 20 and 10?
20 and 10? Okay. And Mr. Norwood, you don't get the luxury of splitting your time.
That's unfair.
Okay. All right, with that, you may proceed with the first part of the appointing authority's closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. Malfeasance, manipulation, and misdirection. Malfeasance, manipulation, and misdirection. That's what the case has been about ever since Sonia Jenkins Gray sent her first text to Anthony Byrd on the morning of July 3rd, 2024. That first text set off a string of events, the sum total of which was a textbook example of malfeasance through the use of city government resources and personnel. And then when she was confronted with the fact that her ill-fated trip had been revealed, it had been discovered, Ms. Jenkins Gray began her string of manipulative acts in a desperate attempt to stave off the consequences of her malfeasance. And now, throughout these proceedings, her desperation has continued, and it has been illustrated by her and her lawyer's quest to misdirect, to get you, the commissioners, to look the other way. And the oldest trick, well, one of the oldest tricks in the book is to get you to look over there and not pay attention to the mess that's over here, right in front of you. Malfeasance, manipulation, and misdirection. Malfeasance is not defined in the section of the charter that covers this situation, but you don't need a spelled out definition to know that what the director did fits the bill. When you consider what she did and the shenanigans that she engaged in once her troubling conduct came to light, including the efforts to make a mockery of this whole process, this becomes a pretty easy case. And I don't care how loud her lawyer yells or how many times he repeats the fallacy that it's all political. The simple truth is the director behaved in a way that demonstrated clearly that she should not be the director of personnel for the city of St. Louis. Now, let's look again at what she did. She reached out to a subordinate employee of the Department of Personnel, Anthony Byrd, to have him reserve a city car for her to take a personal trip out of town to Jefferson City on a workday. Why did she do it? she did it to spy on her husband because she thought he was cheating. And look, it doesn't matter one way or another if he in fact was cheating. That's not the point. Remember, their explanation about that issue is that her husband was meeting with his ex-wife to sign some papers in Jefferson City regarding the child that they have together. And according to their explanation, the director was not aware that her husband was doing this, and so she overreacted. Now, Anthony Byrd testified that the Reverend said she sometimes jumps to conclusions. In other words, she thought, wrongly according to them, she thought that there was something more nefarious going on, that he was being unfaithful. Well, look, that's great for them. It's good to know that they have sorted out whatever marital misunderstanding they had. But their interpersonal resolution does not excuse the gross lapse of judgment that the director displayed. Doesn't make up for the fact that when she thought her husband was being unfaithful, she used city government resources during work time to run to Jefferson City to see if it was true. And she put her subordinate in the middle of a whole mess. And let's consider this subordinate, Anthony Byrd. The point of this proceeding, of these hearings, these days in this hearing, is not to defend what he did, is to examine what she did. The fact of the matter is that she asked him to get a city car. She requested that it not be a marked car. She asked him to accompany her. She asked him to drive. She directed him where to go, to Jefferson City, to the hotel, back to St. Louis, to the casino, to her daughter's house, to her home, to her friend's house. She directed all that. She kept him out with her on this wild escapade until after midnight. She played a recording for him of her husband expressing his displeasure about them trying to spy on him. A recording in which her husband uses an offensive derogatory slur to refer to Boyd. Byrd testified about his concern not only for his own safety, but also for the director's safety, because she alluded to her husband having a weapon. Now, it may be that Anthony Byrd's use of the vehicle in the days after this caper should be reviewed, but that's for another day, perhaps some other proceeding. Even if his subsequent conduct violated policy, that doesn't in any way neglect or negate the director's outrageous conduct, which is at issue today in this proceeding. The director and her lawyer are attempting to throw sand in your eyes with this business about how many miles the car was driven. The fact of the matter is that however many miles it was driven, we know it was driven to Jefferson City and back on July the 3rd at the behest of the director. There is no dispute about that. Now they say, you can't believe Byrd because, because Bianca Lambert believes he's a notorious liar. I scarcely know where to begin. They want you to believe Byrd is a liar, except when he says that she's the greatest director since sliced bread. They want you to believe that Byrd is a liar, except when he says he had a problem with how the hearing notice was being handled. They want you to believe that Byrd is a liar, except when he pontificates about the independence of the Department of Personnel. Believe those good things that he says, but don't believe the detailed testimony that he gave about those events. But one of the ways that you judge someone's credibility, one of the ways, is by looking at how detailed they were in their testimony. And you listen to the deposition testimony that was played here. Byrd was painstakingly detailed about what happened. He talked about seeing the director's car when they get to Jefferson City, but they bypass it and they go to this hotel. He talked about the director calling into the hotel conference center and asking to speak with her husband's ex-wife. And then she went inside the hotel. Her husband, the Reverend, comes out a different door, walks over to the car and says to Bird, "She's here, isn't she?" And Bird says, "Yes, she is." And then Reverend takes off through the parking lot. Bird testified in detail. He described them racing to get back to St. Louis, described them driving to the casino. He described the director retrieving the recording of Reverend Gray expressing his anger and calling Bird these offensive slurs. And he went into more detail. You sat through that and you listened to it. And ask yourself, what motive? What motive does he have to make all of that stuff up? There's no indication that Bird was out to get the director. He's a family friend, remember? He's her trusted administrative assistant. And you know what else? He's someone that she could promote, that she could reclassify. So it's true that Bianca Lambert had trouble believing what Bird told her about that trip. And she also testified in detail about what he said to her. And it was remarkably consistent where it counts with what Bird testified to. She had trouble believing it until she confronted the director with the details of what Bird told her. And it was when the director admitted it that Bianca was taken aback. She didn't believe it at first or had trouble believing Bird, but when she confronted the director, she realized, oh wow, Bird's telling the truth. The director disputed the reason for the reclassification. She disputed that Bird, he knew that this wasn't that this was a personal trip, but that's it. That's all she disputed. The director told Bianca point blank that Anthony Bird did not lie. So what does the director, what's she gonna do now? Now that the cat is out of the bag. She's gonna try to manipulate her way out of it. Both Bianca Lambert and John Understall and the director here today told you about how she shushed them. When they had that meeting, she shushed them, told them to be quiet while she called Anthony Bird to put him on speakerphone, try to get him to say something so that they can hear it. That's manipulation. She proceeded to ask him these bizarre questions about, would you ever do anything to hurt me? Can I trust you? Same kind of questions that she was asking him in that conversation that she recorded. I need to know I can trust you. You either on their side or on my side. That's the kind of director she is. She wants loyalty and trust when she gets herself in these messes. She was hoping to get Bird to say something that she could use to convince Bianca Understall that it was all Bird's fault. And then, you remember, she called him to her office to meet with her. And she ushered Bianca and John Understall out a different door so that Bird wouldn't see them coming in, or wouldn't see that they had been there too to meet with her. And then what does she do with Bird? She has that conversation. This is August the 15th. She has that conversation with him where she, and I can't get over this, she secretly records the conversation. He had no idea he was being recorded. And you remember when she testified the first time, she initially said that there was no rule against recording other employees without their knowledge. Actually said that it was okay for her to do it. And then when she was confronted with the Department of Personnel rule that she herself created, she had to admit, oh yeah, there is in fact a rule against it. Had to admit that she violated her own rule when she recorded Bird without his knowledge. Now, just think about it. What kind of chief human resources executive would actually record their subordinate without their subordinate's knowledge? How else does she manipulate? In that secretly recorded conversation with Byrd, she tells him, I'm protecting you. Remember, they talk in that conversation about an instance where Byrd had actually recorded somebody else's conversation secretly. And she tells him, look, that was illegal, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to protect you. In fact, I'd already lied about it once. That's her manipulating him, trying to keep him on her side. You're either going to be on my side or their side. And to reinforce that, understand, I'm protecting you. You committed this illegal act, but nobody's going to know about it. What else? There was the meeting that Bianca Lambert had with the director on August 19th outside, when she revealed to the director point blank that, yeah, I was the one who went to the mayor's office to report what happened. I was the one who did it. Bianca told you about how when they were outside Chris's restaurant, a car pulled up, and the director asked Bianca if she would be willing to sit in the car and speak with the director's husband about this whole thing. And Bianca wisely said no. But this was yet another example of the director attempting to manipulate subordinates in a desperate attempt to find a way out of the mess that she created. And that reclassification of Byrd, that promotion, there's no getting around the fact that there are all kinds of red flags about that. John Unnerstall testified that the director asked him about reclassifying Byrd. He advised against it. And not 2 weeks later, she directed it to happen. And what was the date that she did this? It was July the 3rd, the same day of the trip to Jefferson City. Well, they say they were doing some work that day. The only evidence of work that was done was that email that she sent directing that he be reclassified. They like to use this term res ipsa loquitur, meaning the thing speaks for itself. You want to know what speaks for itself? Her promoting Mr. Byrd, Dr. Byrd, on the day of this Jefferson City trip, after she was recently advised against it. That speaks for itself. Now, instead of just owning up to what she did, instead of taking responsibility for her actions, for all of her actions, the director has done nothing but point to what everybody else has done. And that's what I mean by misdirection. Her strategy has been to say, don't pay attention to my actions. Look at what everybody else is doing. Not me, look at them. Not only did she blame Anthony Byrd when she met with Bianca and Unnerstall, she blamed him when she met with Jared Boyd and Sarah Baker. Well, Anthony said it was okay for me to take the car for personal business. But she's his boss, not the other way around. Listening to the director and their defense, you would think that she doesn't know how to do her job at all. Byrd said I could. I didn't know any better. Bianca said I should reimburse the comptroller's office, and I followed her advice. I didn't know any better. Nobody trained me. I didn't know what to do with this reemployment letter. That's why I sat on it for 7 or 8 months. I went to the city council's office, but nobody told me what to do. It's not my fault. I know I violated the credit card policy, but I didn't know the policy. Nobody trained me on it. Not my fault. How else are they trying to redirect? They say, well, the mayor's office should have looked into Byrd's use of the car after the Jefferson City trip. As if that makes a difference to what she did. I don't care if he drove to California and back. that doesn't diminish what she did. It's misdirection. Oh, wait, Jared said that the hearing was set for September 3rd, but you know what? It wasn't really set for that date. So look over there. Jared lied. Don't pay attention to me. Jared lied. That's what they say. But Jared explained to you that he had reached out to the then chairman of the commission and was told that the hearing could be held on September 3rd, but they never get around to setting it for that date. You know why? Because the director went out on leave, and her lawyer, you saw it, you heard the testimony, her lawyer asked that no hearing be set until she came back. It's just more misdirection. What about this? Why didn't you, Sarah Baker, or you, Jared Boyd, report Anthony Byrd for those extra miles or for a false entry in the vehicle log book? Don't you have a duty to report that? They don't really care about that. It's misdirection. At the same time, they're running this line about a failure to report misconduct. The director outright told Byrd that when she secretly recorded that conversation, he committed an illegal act. Did she report him? No, she didn't report. Well, I'm his appointing authority, so I already know. Instead, she protected him by lying about it. And then the height of misdirection. Throughout these proceedings, they have yelled and hollered about political interference. Everything is political interference. Doing their best to castigate the mayor, trying like heck to get this commission, the hearing officer, and the public to focus on the mayor instead of on what she, the director, has done to bring us to this very moment. Everything is political interference. All the while they have produced no evidence of the mayor trying to get rid of her for political reasons. That's really why he keeps on using the term res ipsa loquitur so many times. That's that legal theory, once again, that legal theory that's used in tort cases. And lawyers try to use the theory to prove their case really when they have no evidence. Well, Your Honor, I don't have any evidence, but res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. Well, what the thing is saying right now is that the notion of political interference is nothing but innuendo and misdirection.
2 minutes left.
The cold, sad truth is that the director thought her husband was cheating. And even if he wasn't, it doesn't matter. She thought he was. So she went on this spy mission to see if it was true. And that would have been fine if she hadn't done a few things. If she hadn't involved her employee, if she hadn't used the city vehicle, if she hadn't taken the trip during work hours, if she hadn't continued on with this escapade into the wee hours of the night. All of that amounts to malfeasance.
Okay, thank you. Now we turn to the director. You have your 30 minutes, and you have your 10 minutes left.
Yes, thank you. Ooh, sorry, my knees are creaky. I have to get my timing together to keep me in order. And so just, if you could bear with me for 1 minute. May it please the commission, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Spy mission. Outrageous. Caper. Ill-fated. Manipulative. Shenanigans. Wild escapade. I think he spent too much time trying government cases, apparently. Even if you buy his argument, I'm gonna spend 30 seconds following this trail. She's gone down to catch her husband cheating. Where's the compassion? This is a family issue. It's a family emergency. If my wife was cheating and I was going after that, so ill-fated shenanigans while escapade? What kind of city are we living in? What kind of lawyers would come in here and castigate this woman continually with no shred of evidence about her going down there to catch her husband cheating? You heard the testimony, but I digress. Let me start by saying I am proud, I am honored. I've been in this game a long time, probably too long, 38 years. And I've represented multinational corporations, big tobacco companies, big insurance companies, small businesses, large businesses. I've represented a lot of clients, but I've never had a client like this. Never had a client under the slings and arrows continue to do her job for the city. Nobody's challenged that. Nobody said she's that. We saw the emails. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. You see the emails all times a day. Not punching a clock, making sure the city's work gets done, even in being confronted with slings and arrows. That's the kind of person they want to discard. That's the kind of person they want to throw in the junk heap. For what? $170.30. This is what this case is about. Misdirection. This is what the case is about. It's been reimbursed, so it's not even about this. Hold on a second. This is what the case is really about. It's about this, because it's been repaid. This woman, her family, her husband have been drawn into this thing. And I like to, over the course of my years, I'm a quirky guy. And I like to label all of my litigation just so I can file it away in my memory bank. In this case, I got a beautiful name for it. It's called the case of blind-eyed justice. Blind-eyed justice. The media is complicit in this blind-eyed justice. They're chasing her and chasing the reverend and going around looking for dirt. And they ignore the obvious, blatant violations of rules. Falsification of city records. Falsification of letters. Numerous incidents of political interference in violation of the charter, in violation of commission rules, in violation of morals. Blind-eyed justice. This woman, this person, 25, 26, 7, coming into the job, bringing innovation to the job, bringing changes to the job, helping to move things along. $107.30. Now, we call him Good Jarrett. Good Jarrett versus, well, you know what. Good Jarrett pulled my coat. See, you learn a lot from young lawyers. He said, you know what? You see that? Over the 8 days we've been coming to this proceeding, parking back and forth over here at the city lot, we paid more in parking than what this case is really worth. Right, Good Jarrett, right? ignoring parking fee, $18 a day is what I've been paying, and then my other paralegal, she's been coming. That's what the case is about. Tons of money, thousands of dollars. I can't wait. I'm going to get a Sun Channel. I want to see the bill. Thousands of dollars paying for this fabulous jurist to preside over this once in a lifetime. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Not thousands of dollars, I don't think.
No. He didn't get the thousands of dollars. But thousands of dollars over here, because they're out in Clayton. I know they pay $1,000 to get this distinguished jurist to help manage this once in the history of St. Louis event. The removal of the director of personnel. Now, they have the burden of proving malfeasance. That's what the case is about. She violated the rule. She told Jarrett that. I mean, when she found out she violated the rule, she fessed up. So it's not about whether or not this is a rule violation. The question is whether or not this is malfeasance. And they have the burden. I'm sure the judge will talk about by the preponderance of the evidence. That means more likely than not. More likely than not on malfeasance. And we submit that the evidence under their theory of the case, under their warped view of the world, that evidence firmly establishes by the preponderance of evidence that there is no malfeasance, no intent to violate the policy. Nobody's coming here and says she knew about the policy. And no evidence, nothing. No evidence that she was aware of the policy beforehand. No evidence that she intended to place Dr. Berg in, what's the term you use, Reggie? Precarious situation. Precarious situation. They come in here under oath and talk to you all and talk about inferences. We inferred that she was going to catch her husband cheating. Inferences. And I asked them, you son, did anybody tell you that she was going to catch it? Well, we made inferences. Those inferences, according to the Reverend's testimony, made it out of the mayor's office into the media. And before we even walked in this courtroom, the word was out. Director Jenkins Gray going to catch her husband cheating. What a wild escapade. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the city, and now I'm embarrassed for this law firm to have to come in here and sell you this, that these are the kind of family values in this very personal situation, even if it was true. But they don't care. They don't care. In making this precarious item, effectively they're admitting that there was no malfeasance because there's no intent. Malfeasance requires some willful intent. It requires something that you do deliberately to violate your office. This was a rule violation, a rule that no employee in the history of the rule, we've got testimony about that, they haven't had anything to the contrary under their preponderance of evidence, has ever even received a slap on the wrist. None. And it's not a selective prosecution thing. It's a question of, well, what is malfeasance? Right? If she left some gum in the hall and somebody stepped on it accidentally, is that malfeasance? It relates to the incident. And in this case, this is the incident. $170.30 that she reimbursed. I looked up the definition of precarious. And it says, quote, dependent on chance circumstances, unknown conditions, or uncertain developments. So to the extent it was precarious, it was unknown, if you believe their story. So when they say precarious, essentially they're saying we don't have any evidence of intent. We've got a lot of inferences, though. I'll sell you an inference. and we'll raise you 2 inferences. And that won't buy you a stick of bubble gum, okay? How do we know that she did know about the vehicle policy? Because the same policy allowed her to seek reimbursement. At least $1,000, let's be real conservative. She's driving all around the city in her personal vehicle on city business, but she didn't submit one request that she legitimately should have submitted. Somebody here talked about common sense. You'd think if she knew about the policy, she would have known about that and she would submit that reimbursement, and she would have capered her way into $170.30. Risk her reputation, her career, give him a promotion. It's offensive. Should have thrown in a box of fried rice with it. Round it off. To suggest that she would compromise her integrity over that. To be manipulative and capering around over that. That's what they're selling. That's what they're asking you to buy. How do we know that she wasn't trying to catch her husband cheating? Besides the fact that no witness has testified that anybody said she was going, except, was there a reporter back there? Which reporter reported that coming out of the mayor's office when in fact we are in a court of law? Report the fact that they don't have one witness to back that up, okay? I'm a journalism major, right? And they call that burying the lead, where they ignore all of the evidence about political interference and rule violations and false documents. Sweep that under the rug. And let's print the skirl. Print that. Dr. Boyd testified on the way up, there was no problem. They took care of business. They talked business. No issues. And then they got there and something happened. She testified about that. Her imagination ran wild. And what'd you say? I'm a woman. Well, I don't know anything about that, but she certainly does, and she testified about that. Okay. Charge her for being a woman. Charge her for loving her husband. But don't remove her for malfeasance, even if you buy their theory of this case. Everything was normal. When she couldn't reach her husband, when she got there, her demeanor changed because maybe she believed something was amiss. Maybe she believed he was meeting with his ex-wife because he was. She's a great investigator. Aha! Yeah, they were meeting. But they were meeting to take care of family business. There was nobody's disputing that. He didn't touch that. He didn't touch the reverend on that because he couldn't. Yet he gets up here and talks about cheating. But the evidence really is demonstrated. This case is not about the round trip to Jefferson City. People have gone on the east side at strip clubs. People have been in auto accidents. People have been all over the city out in St. Charles with city vehicles. It ain't about that. It ain't even about the $170.30 that's been reimbursed. And sometimes the answer is not all that complex. The answer is right under our noses. The answer based on the evidence that's been presented in this room that somehow the media, they're good journalists, but they're burying their lead. This case is about a power grab by the most powerful person in the city of St. Louis, and that is Mayor Tashard Jones. From day one, locking out personnel, calling Director Frank to interfere. We got ample evidence of interference that we saw Sylvia Donaldson. You saw that woman. She fessed up. Yeah, I'm on team, I'm on the director's team, right? She was honest. And she was also honest about all the political interference, which they never quizzed her on. So, preponderance of the evidence, that's the evidence. They don't have anything to counter that. And so their response is, let's ignore it. Like the press has ignored it. I'm not ignoring it. I'm fighting here for this woman, but I'm also fighting for all of the civil servants in the city of St. Louis. You know why? You know why I'm so passionate? You know why I lost it that first day? You know why I'm emotional and why I have to do Tai Chi to keep my chi down? It's because my mother worked as a civil servant for the Mayor Daley administration in Chicago. She worked and scrimped and saved so I can stand here today as a successful lawyer in a successful firm to represent this proud black woman. So it's personal to me. It's personal. Those civil servants don't make a lot of money. Those civil servants aren't out there in the limelight. They're not out there hogging. They go out there and they clean the snow and they sweep the streets and they clear the court buildings, and they process tax payment, making the lives of our taxpayers better, protecting those city streets, putting out those fires before they burn down communities. But what these dedicated public servants lack in financial compensation, they should, at the very least, per 1941 voters, at the very least, have those charter guarantees. Job security, job advancement, job opportunities based solely on merit, utterly devoid of political interference. That's what the voters decided then, and until some new voters come in, that is the law of this land in terms of the city of St. Louis. Free of political pressures. That's how the charter was created. And in Chicago, where I grew up, they had a different style of politics, a sort of brass knuckle politics. Mayor Daley, generations, he controlled that city. You know why? Because he controlled those jobs. Patronage, cronyism. It's the reason why a lot of people up in Chicago are going to jail, okay? Because that's the kind of flow that they flowed in Chicago. And this person protects civil servants in this city, 45 to 5,000 to be exact. She put everything on the line protecting those civil servants. And for that, she's manipulative. This is a caper. This is a wild escapade. And let's not make any mistake about it. We can dance around and pretense all we want to, but make no mistake about it. Sonya's not being disciplined. This is not a disciplinary proceeding. Sonya's being politically persecuted by our good mayor of the city of St. Louis, being punished for fighting for civil servants, being punished for fighting for city workers, being punished for fighting for the integrity of the civil service system, being punished for pushing back against political interference, being punished for having a husband, a reverend, a 70-year-old reverend who has challenged the mayor, challenged the horrific conditions in the jails, being punished for refusing to give in to the mayor and her minions, being punished because she loves her husband. And the price, what's the price? He talked about GoFundMe. The price, it's more than this. You know, Sunshine My Bills. I'll tell you how much she had to pay. I'll tell you how she had to cash in pension payments, Army pension payments, in order to keep this ship afloat on behalf of not only her own personal reputation, but for the reputation of this city and civil servants. So I don't want to hear about capers, because I see those bills every month. And they're not cheap, as yours are, except yours are being paid by the taxpayers, and hers are coming out of her purse. public scorn, public humiliation. And she could have simply quit. Why should I deal with this? Is it because she needs a job? Global HR director, she's gonna find a job regardless of the outcome of this. She's gonna do okay. So if you all are worried about her being destitute, don't worry. Because when when the forensics are done on this outcome, she's gonna receive tons of offers. Because they're gonna say, anybody who can tolerate this is our person. Right? So it's not about her job. And quite frankly, the job Norwood and his team are doing should be done by this team. They talk about they represent the city. Well, we are the city. I'm the city. I'm paying for his legal fees because I paid personal property tax that I could have got a refund on, but I didn't. Right? So I'm paying. This is the city. He's not representing the city. Because if he was representing the city, we wouldn't be here fighting over peanuts. He's representing a politically motivated mayor with a vendetta. Right? This ain't about the city. This is about the pettiness, the vindictiveness, the callousness of our mayor. And this is one of those exceptional moments in history. I'm proud to be here in this once-in-a-lifetime thing. They may be talking about this when I'm in that great courtroom, classroom, dojo, kickboxing room in the sky. And that's fine. And they're going to digest everything that's happened here and what you do here. This is more, this is bigger than Mayor Jones. Because the city will be here long after the name Tashara Jones has faded away into the trash heap of history. 40-plus year public servants, seen mayors come and go. Now, I did point out the fact that I apologize. I'm apologize again. You know why? Because, if you all felt offended by me representing my client, offended by me suing you, offended by me seeking a default judgment against you. I know it's hard to believe, but I'm doing this for you. I'm protecting the system that you all have a duty to protect. I'm protecting you from them. Because if we, and let me say this, I'm not here to start a war with the commission. I'm not here to start a war with the city. Last thing I thought I would be doing a year ago was to be in here castigating the mayor of the city of St. Louis, taking on the quote-unquote city, and standing up for my client before you all. So if I cross the line, blame me. Don't blame her. Because I see the bigger picture. It's more than just my client. So the war is not against the commission. The war is not against the city. If there is a war being waged by Captain Ronnie and his crew, it's to protect the integrity of the civil service system, to protect against the ability of a mayor to come in and break the rules at will. We heard the evidence now, just this week. I mean, see, they're still breaking the rules. You're talking about brazen? We're accusing them of political interference, and they're engaging in political interference right under our noses. Director Sonia Jenkins Gray is a fighter. We've seen her passionately fighting for something. You've worked with her, so it's not like I'm introduced. You've seen her more than I have in those meetings. Maybe that's you because you're new. You have. Fighting, working with you all, so you know her. And I think you know her heart. They went through every receipt, and all they found is one Fusion Lounge receipt that was legitimate and a parking receipt for a sanctioned trip to Harvard on city business. All of those receipts, that's the best they could come up with. And this. Your roles as commissioners is vitally important. And whatever your differences with me, your displeasure with me, I'll take it. I plead guilty. But don't punish the director of personnel. Don't let this great civil service system be swallowed up by the politically infected shark tank known as the Mayor Tashara Jones administration. Because if we can't protect the top, if we can't protect, legitimately protect from political interference, the director of personnel, what snowball's chance in, you know what, is going to protect the snow removal people and the garbage removal people and the bailiffs downstairs and these lovely ladies here who've been sitting here diligently? Who's going to protect them? In that Exhibit 2, it describes it best. She describes it best. She describes the Civil Service Commission as, quote, an independent guardian of the city's merit-based system. And if you want to talk about malfeasance, and I know the clock is ticking, and I submit this case is about malfeasance, or could be about malfeasance, or both. But malfeasance by whom? It would be malfeasance, in my humble opinion, to terminate a dedicated civil servant for violating a policy that no one has been disciplined for. That would be malfeasance. It would be malfeasance to fire someone who the undisputed evidence established has made invaluable contributions in helping the city move to the next level. There's a dispute between her and Director Frank about who put out, but there's no question, even he acknowledged, that she's taken this department to the next level with experience, with dedication, with working overtime, undertime. That would be malfeasance. Malfeasance, in my humble opinion, for terminating a civil servant who has pushed back against a powerful mayor and her minions, who had the backbone, who had the spinal fortitude to say no, 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 no. Who was that? I think that was Elijah Wan. I think he was the one who, no, 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 not on my watch. Mutombo, thank you. Mutombo, not on my watch. Be malfeasance to be the first time in the history of the city of St. Louis to remove an independent director of personnel who happens to be an African-American woman, who happens to be the most qualified director in the history of the city of St. Louis. To cast her aside at the whims of repeated violators of the rules in the Constitution, or the Charter, civil service rules, the Code of Conduct. That's all in the record. Malfeasance to clear the way for the mayor to flood the civil service rank with cronies, with patronage picks, with staff rejects. So, commissioners, in closing, we urge you, not for her benefit, not for Ronnie's benefit, but for the benefit of the system that you swore an oath to protect. And we believe that the evidence, or the lack thereof, firmly establishes and gives you the right to take this case and do something with it. Thank you.
Okay, and you have your 10 minutes.
So I don't want to have this proceeding and these hearings end before, Your Honor, I do go ahead and make my apologies to you and the commission for any time I got angry, any time I made outbursts and the like, or any of the times that I was most likely out of order. I want to apologize about that, and I don't want that to sort of, kind of tarnish whatever, has gone on in these proceedings. Mr. Norwood said that his mother was a civil servant in Chicago. My mother was a civil servant too, right here in St. Louis. She worked at City Hall back in the 80s. And like Mr. Norwood, I'm proud to be here today standing on her shoulders because of what how hard she worked to help me get to where I am, to help me stand here today and do a job that I have to do while our first female African-American mayor in this city gets stones and mud slung at her. I'm proud to stand here on her behalf, despite all of the mess that's being tossed at her, our first Black woman mayor in the city of St. Louis. I don't care what he says, I'm proud of that. I also am not going to attack the prestigious law firm that Mr. Norwood comes from, Lewis Rice. That's a great firm, been around a long time, a legacy here in St. Louis. So I'm not going to cast aspersions against his firm like he did against mine. I just want to talk some more about the evidence in the case. I'm talking about the actual evidence that we've presented. The director claims that she didn't know the city policy. This professional human resources person who's been in the business for 30 years or so didn't know the city's vehicle use policy after being on the job for almost 2 years. All kinds of things are wrong with that. But let's put that aside. Let's say she didn't know there was an official vehicle policy, or she didn't know what the exact terms of the policy were. Let's look at what we know about what happened. Let's just take a look at the text messages. I think they tell us that the director knew that what she was doing was problematic. What she says in her text messages tells you that, at a minimum, she knows there might be something wrong with what she is proposing to do. Even before we get to the one on the screen, she asked first, is it okay to drive the car to Jeff City? And if she didn't at least entertain the notion that it was not okay, why would she even ask? And then if you look at the buildup of the conversation, Anthony Byrd asked her if she will be back after 5 p.m. Her response is, after 5. Right after which she says, maybe I'll get a rental car. So she says first, after 5, and it's on the other text. She says, after 5, and then she says, maybe I'll get a rental car. She says that because she knows that after 5 means after normal business hours, in which case, perhaps she shouldn't be using a city vehicle for this trip that's going to keep her away after normal business hours. And then she says, definitively, I'm going to get a rental car. I'm going to get a rental car. You want to know why she says that? Look at what she says immediately after that. I'm going to get a rental car. It's not completely city business. In other words, she's going to get a rental car because the trip is not about city business. So she knows that there is something wrong about using this city vehicle for personal reasons. That text exchange right there tells you that the director at least thought about the possibility that she shouldn't be doing what she ultimately did. But the truth is, she did more than just think about the possibility that it was wrong. She knew that she was up to no good. Consider the text message that she left out of the ones that she produced in this matter. She left out this text message, the one that Anthony Byrd provided, which said, "Sadly, all the cars are marked." Sadly, all the cars are marked. That's obviously in response to the director's request for a car that doesn't stand out, that would not be easily identifiable. See, it wouldn't matter if there was an unmarked car, if all she was planning to do was go and get some papers from the car. If all I'm doing is going to pick up these papers, who cares if the car that I'm in is marked or not? And about that flimsy explanation, nobody testified that the director, in fact, went to her car in Jefferson City and retrieved papers. Nobody except the director, the one on trial, the one with the motive to make up an explanation like that. Remember, her lawyer asked Anthony Byrd if he saw the director go to her car and retrieve papers. He said he didn't see that. In fact, his testimony was that they saw the car when they got there, but they then drove over to that hotel. And there was no more mention of the car in Jefferson City. Nope. Only the director testified about retrieving personal papers. To this day, no one knows what these alleged personal papers are. You know why? Because they don't exist. That was a made-up story, an attempt to hide the truth of why she took the trip in the first place. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The director might be a nice person. I mean, she's pleasant coming in and saying hi to everybody. She's probably a very nice person. But you can't have someone in the position of director of personnel who would be so reckless, so reckless as to do what she did. Her conduct clearly amounts to malfeasance. It clearly does. She misused city government resources. She put another city employee, a subordinate, in an unfair, precarious, messy, and he thought possibly a dangerous situation. She blamed him for it. She was evasive. She was evasive even on the stand. That's not your business. The Reverend was on the stand. Oh, there was some vague media people told me these rumors. Well, who are these people? I ain't telling. I guess that's the strategy. It's nobody's business. I ain't gonna tell you who these media people are who are putting out these rumors. She put another city employee in this situation. She was evasive. She failed to take responsibility for what she did. Not by paying some $170.30 after she calculated some mileage. That's not taking responsibility. And then after all of that, she tried to manipulate the very employees, tried to manipulate Byrd, tried to manipulate Bianca Lambert, these subordinates who knew what happened. She did that in a desperate attempt to try to find a way out of this messy situation. And we've been here all these days in this hearing, and we recognize that this is a messy situation. But it's a messy situation that she created. There's just no way around it. That's malfeasance, and I ask this commission to find it as so.
All right, then that concludes the closing arguments. I believe the commission would, at this time, make a motion that concludes unless
Well, one thing we
either-
want to do is make sure that the staff gets the records.
Oh, all right.
And I would move that,
Well, we inquired, and as I understand it, the media people, by media I mean the recording, the personnel, they will make available to the staff some type of a private, confidential way of doing it, but the link to the recording. Is that correct? Okay.
Thanks.
And so that's, the staff will be in touch with them as to how to go about doing that, but that will be done. And does that answer what
Okay.
you were asking
Yep,
about?
that's it.
And the one thing does either attorney have anything else that we have not covered or done that needs to be done? I don't believe so,
I don't
but,
believe so, Your Honor.
Nothing on our end, Your Honor.
okay, thank you both, and I think the commission needs to make
all
a
right,
motion to close the
I'm going to do
hearing.
that, and with thanks and appreciation for everybody's patience with us wading our way through a very unique and unprecedented process, and whatever errors and so forth were made in that were done in good faith without a roadmap to follow. But with that, I move that this hearing be concluded. Do I have a second?
Underscoring those points that you've made, I second that.
Call the roll.
Chairperson Barney?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Llewellyn?
Yes.
Oh.
Adjourned.
Motion
Oh, there is one thing that by the rules then, perhaps we should have put it on the record. Both parties get the same 14 days from now to submit written findings of fact and conclusions of law to the commission. And so those can be done electronically, I believe. Is that correct? They can send those to the commission staff as attachments in an email or however electronically, but they will need to be submitted. Today is the 11th of February, so if my math is right, 11 plus 14 means those will be due on the 25th of February. I don't think there's a time limit. Any day up until midnight that night, they can be submitted, I believe, and you're within the 14 days, I think, as the rule's been interpreted. So, and then obviously, then, once the commissioners get the written briefs of both parties, findings of fact, conclusions of law that are proposed by both parties, then the commissioners themselves have to adopt written findings of fact and conclusions of law, and that would be, of course, the commission decision. And as I understand it, it is only at that point when the commission makes their decision. Obviously, that would be a public decision. However, city charter provision, when I say decision, the way the charter provision reads is the commissioners make a recommendation to the mayor about what should happen. And then it's up to the mayor to accept or reject that recommendation. I believe I'm quoting that correctly. Everybody's nodding their head. So the 14 days, just to make sure you both knew, and we put that on the record, that's the time. All right, so that's it.